Some stories aren't meant to be read once. Tonight, we're diving back into the darkest corners of Reddit, revisiting tales that have haunted viewers across our channel. From the eerie to the outright terrifying, these stories aren't just fiction. They're shared experiences, posted by strangers who dared to tell the truth of their nightmares. As you watch, pay attention to the details you might have missed before. The creaks, the shadows, the subtle signs that something isn't right. They're all there, waiting for you to notice. And tonight, we're diving back in, together. And as we revisit these stories, remember the fear it made you feel. Remember the dread it filled you with. But most importantly, remember to leave the light on.
The story begins with a nameless artist. According to legend, he mixed his own blood into the paint before taking his own life, just days after finishing the piece. No gallery ever touched it. No museum dared to display it. It was never meant to be seen. And yet, it was passed down, quietly, like a secret too dangerous to speak aloud. The painting eventually ended up in the attic of a woman who refused to hang it. She said it gave her nightmares. Her grandson, Sean Robinson, inherited it after her death. He recalled stories his grandmother told him of the painting. She warned him of the strange events that happened when the painting was on display, such as strange noises of a man crying, sightings of a mysterious figure around the house. But most importantly, she warned that it was evil and needed to be locked away to protect all those around it. At first, Sean didn't believe the stories. He thought it was an oddity, a conversational piece worthy to be displayed in his home. He was curious, skeptical. He displayed the painting in the basement of his home at the request of his wife, who didn't care for the painting, claiming it freaked her out. When flooding occurred in 2010, he removed the painting from the basement and moved it to one of the bedrooms. That's when the nightmares began. At first, it was just little things. Doors slamming, sightings of a mysterious ghostly figure. All could easily be explained away, until it couldn't. Eventually, the haunting progressed. Robinson woke up to see the figure lurking at the end of the bed. His wife discovered a shadowy figure laying next to her in bed one night, and it thoroughly traumatized her. As if that wasn't scary enough, it wasn't until the couple's son, Keenan, felt a presence push him down a flight of stairs that Sean could no longer doubt the supernatural entity living within the painting. In 2011, Sean released a viral video online titled "Ghost Activity Caught on Tape, Haunted Painting, The Anguished Man."
I'll just give you a quick look at the painting first, close up. So I'm going to set up the recording equipment and leave it for approximately 8 hours. And I'll leave the light on.
In it, you can hear faint whispers, strange bangs, and a presence moving around the room. Within the comments of the video, a war between skeptics and believers ensued. Believers knew what they were looking at, and more importantly, what they were hearing. They fully believed in Robinson's video and that the haunting was real and terrifying. Of course, skeptics everywhere believe this is a hoax, especially with Robinson selling movie rights to the painting in 2016. But he remains steady in his belief that the painting is cursed. In a 2013 episode of Discovery's Weird or What, a series showcasing unexplained mysteries, he was quoted in saying, "A lot of people are skeptical, and I can understand that because I was a skeptic myself, and I still am, but the footage is there for you to see. It wasn't faked. There could be a perfectly reasonable explanation, but I haven't found one yet." Robinson continues to post updates of the painting on his YouTube channel, showcasing more paranormal activities such as distorted sounds and ghostly figures running by. Is it the soul of the artist, trapped in his final creation? Or is the painting itself alive, feeding off fear, off attention, off us? Or is this just an elaborate hoax, one created in hopes of virality and fame? Whatever the truth is, those who've lived with the painting all say the same thing. It doesn't just look anguished, it brings anguish with it. Our next painting is called The Hands Resist Him, created by artist Bill Stoneham in 1972. He said it was meant to represent the threshold between the waking world and the unconscious. At a glance, it's strange, but not terrifying. A young boy stands beside a doll in front of a glass-paned door. Behind them, dozens of handprints press against the glass, reaching, grasping, resisting. But when the painting was rediscovered in the year 2000, it took on a new life, and a much darker one. In February 2000, it was listed on eBay by a couple who claimed the painting was haunted and included a disclaimer: "Do not bid on this painting if you are faint of heart." They said the figures in the painting moved on their own. The boy would vanish. The doll's expression would change. At night, they claimed the boy would step out of the frame entirely, wandering their house, staring at them in silence. To prove it, they set up a motion-activated camera. In the photos, the boy's arms were raised. The doll held a small gun. Their positions had shifted from one frame to the next, without anyone touching the canvas. When the listing went live, it went viral. Over 30,000 people viewed the page in a matter of days. Some viewers claimed they felt dizzy or ill after looking at the painting. Others said their children screamed at the screen or refused to go near it. Several reported that their computers crashed just from loading the image. Despite the warnings, the painting sold. But even the new owner says something feels off. People refuse to stand too close. Cameras malfunction. And employees report nightmares the day after working near it. There's also a chilling coincidence. 3 individuals involved with the painting's past exhibitions, including the gallery owner who originally displayed it, reportedly died under sudden or mysterious circumstances. The first alleged victim of the painting is Henry Seldes, an art critic who wrote a review of Stoneham's debut work, including this painting, in 1974. He was found in his apartment, dead, in 1978. According to the police reports, his death was listed as a suicide. The second alleged victim is Charles Fengarden, the man who ran the gallery and contacted Stoneham to showcase his art. He passed away in 1981. The last was an owner of the painting, John Marley, the actor most famous for his horsehead scene in The Godfather. He died in open-heart surgery in 1984. It is important to note that Farley died a while after selling the painting. But after these deaths, the painting disappeared from the public eye until its famous reveal on eBay in 2000. In regards to the mysterious deaths linked to the painting, Stoneham brushes it off as mere coincidence and doesn't believe in the stories of his painting being haunted. It currently resides in the back room of Smith's Perception Fine Art Gallery in Grand Rapids, Michigan. It has been shown publicly a grand total of 6 times, and each time, the viewers report feeling off or strange after the encounters. Is it a suggestion? The power of the mind? Or is this more than a painting? Perhaps it is a portal, with something on the other side trying to get out. This is The Crying Boy, a mass-produced painting created by Italian artist Giovanni Bregolin in the 1950s. At first, it was meant to evoke sympathy, one of many portraits he painted of orphans in post-war Europe. But over time, the image began collecting a reputation, not of pity, but of fear. In 1985, Peter Hall, a Yorkshire fireman, was quoted in a national newspaper as saying, "Fire brigades across the north of England had frequently found undamaged copies of the painting amidst the ruins of burned houses." His brother, Ron Hall, who did not believe the story, bought a copy of The Crying Boy to disprove the so-called curse, but found his home in South Yorkshire mysteriously burnt down soon afterwards, with the painting being the only thing that survived. British tabloids ran wild with the story. "Blazing Curse of the Crying Boy," read one headline in The Sun. Fear spread quickly. People began burning their copies, throwing them out, warning others to never hang one on their wall. Theories surfaced like smoke in a burning room. Some claimed the painting was cursed because the artist had mistreated the child models. Others believed the boy in the portrait had died in a fire and that his spirit was now seeking revenge. One tale claimed the crying boy was an orphan whose parents died in a blaze, and wherever he went next, flames followed. Eventually, the Sun held mass burnings of the painting. People mailed them in, hoping to break the curse, hoping to end it. Others disagreed with this, claiming that it was all a hoax and weird coincidences. Some even claimed that the boy protected them, and many homes kept him displayed. But be careful what comfort you take from haunted eyes, because maybe, just maybe, he's still watching and waiting. After all, he never stops crying, and some say he never stops burning.
I was about 13 at the time. So that would mean this happened around 2009, I think? I'm bad at math. I was home alone one night when my parents went out somewhere. I think it was some work party or something. It involved alcohol, so they had to leave the car at home and take a taxi. I usually enjoyed being home alone at night. Mom would leave pizza money and I could play Xbox all night. It was Halloween break, so I didn't have any school to worry about. The good old days. I remember being in a bit of a zombie phase because I spent most nights playing Left 4 Dead and COD 5 Zombies with my friends. Man, I'm telling you, pizza, snacks, a case of Dr. Pepper, and gaming with the boys? Heaven. Well, something happened on one of these nights that messed me up pretty bad. To the point that even now, I always double check doors and windows. I never wear both cans of a pair of headphones at once, and I'm still petrified of the dark. That one ruined a few relationships. I was playing Xbox as usual all night, and I was already a bit jumpy. I was playing alone that night, so I wasn't talking to anyone. I was playing Left 4 Dead, and the music and the sounds of the witch used to scare me a little. I was 13, shut up. So every dark corner and noise I heard was already freaky. I had my window open a bit, and I heard what sounded like someone walking up my gravel driveway. I thought it was my parents coming home, but when I looked outside, I couldn't see anyone. I remember just sitting in silence for a while, with my game paused, trying to listen out for the other sounds. But I didn't hear anything. It was only a few minutes later I heard the trash cans in my backyard falling over. I nearly jumped out of my skin. We didn't really get raccoons or anything, so I started to panic a bit. I looked out the window in the hallway, out into my backyard. I couldn't see anything. The trash cans did fall over, but I didn't see raccoons, and it wasn't windy. It was raining a little, but that was it. I couldn't see the back door as the window looked down above the porch, and the porch roof blocked my view. There's definitely something happening. I went and stood at the top of my stairs and just stared into the darkness for I don't know how long, hoping that I didn't hear anything. All I could hear was the pitter-patter of the rain and my heartbeat in my ears.
As I went to go back to my room, I heard it. Someone was trying the handle of the back door. I slowly made my way down my stairs and peeked around the corner and into the kitchen. The back door was wide open. My blood ran cold and every hair stood on end. I knew I had to call the police, but the phone was on the wall next to the fridge, in the kitchen. In what was one of the stupidest decisions of my life, I started walking towards the kitchen. It felt like my hallway was 1,000,000 miles long. My mind was racing with possibilities of what was waiting for me. Was someone going to grab me? Were they going to just stab me or shoot me or something? Every single scenario played out in my head. In each one, I end up dead. Or worse. I finally made it to the kitchen. I tiptoed over to the phone. I lifted it and dialed 911, and that's when I heard it.
Aren't you supposed to be in bed, son?
A voice echoing from the back of the kitchen near the window. A low and gravelly voice. I threw down the phone and ran. I could hear the man running after me. I ran faster than I ever had towards my front door. As I got to it, it flung open. It was my parents. I ran into my dad's arms and managed to get through the tears and panic that someone was in the kitchen. As I looked back towards the kitchen, the man went running through the back door again, and my dad ran after him. My dad came back a minute later and told my mom to call the cops. The cops asked me about what happened, but I couldn't give them a description as I couldn't see him in the darkness. They asked my dad where the guy ran off to, but my dad said that he jumped the fence and ran off into the trees. They never caught him. I've since moved into my own place and fitted every door and window with good quality locks. But while I still lived in my parents' house, every time I looked into those trees, I always felt like someone was watching me. To this day, Ross checks every window and every lock. Because once you hear a stranger's voice in the dark, inside your own home, you never really feel safe again. I don't remember how the whole thing started. It doesn't really matter to me all that much. Whatever the case, it ended in a dare. A dare that saw me breaking and entering. It was about a week, maybe a few days less into the summer holiday. We were walking to Michael's house, which was about a half-mile away from my high school, when we spotted one of the fences that bordered the field had collapsed. For whatever stupid reason, we came to discussing whether someone could break in. Somehow, the whole thing escalated into my friends, David and Mike, daring me to do it. In some moment of hot-headed brashness, I took on the challenge. But I knew something they didn't. My secret weapon. The month before, I'd been messing around trying to open the windows of Miss Marilyn's class, and realized that the 1 second from the back, right by the bookcase, didn't lock. I tried to stall going in, but once we were stood there and the two of them were looking expectantly at me, I decided to pull up my pants and get on with it. I awkwardly scaled the half-collapsed fence that bounced under my weight before I dropped onto the other side. I dusted myself off and shot a smarmy grin back to my friends before creeping towards the old building. I kept low as I made my way across the field, through the parking lot, and up into Miss Marilyn's classroom window. I put my palms to the glass and spent a few minutes trying to get the right amount of pressure and direction to make the thing slide open enough for me to slip my hand in and lift it all the way. With me, I had a small can of paint we bought for a handful of bucks at a hardware store. My quest was to tag one of the hallways. What I wrote was up to me. I made my way out of the classroom door and into the corridor. I took some consideration into where I was putting it. I mean, I didn't want to go to all this hard work and have it not be seen. I landed on going down to the corridor where all the lockers were, so no one could avoid seeing it when they returned after the summer. Even though I've made it that far, I was still sweating with anxiety. I knew there would be no one there over the summer, and I was sure we didn't have any cameras in our school, but I couldn't shake the danger. I was breaking and entering. If I had been caught, it would have been huge. How would I explain that to my parents, let alone the police? I crept, stealthily as I could muster through the darkness. Shadows from the moon cast here and there, playing tricks on my haywire mind. I was physically shaking with adrenaline. I reached the corridor I was looking for and found the perfect place, between Mr. Carty's math classroom and Mrs. Trelawney's. I tremblingly withdrew my paint can and started daubing my words. David Chow and Michael Patrick were here. I had to hold back from giggling at my stupid plan. Yeah, let's see them explain this one next semester. That was when I heard a heavy bang behind me, and I leapt about 16 feet in the air. I whipped myself around to see who was behind me, legs more akin to spaghetti than bone. Nothing. Just the lockers. I didn't dare move, save my shaking knees. Then started a low, raspy murmur, echoing back the corridor and emanating from the lockers right behind me. I wanted to scream, to shriek, to do anything. It came again, and the lockers rattled. This time, I didn't fuck around, and I bolted. I scrambled on my feet, bouncing off the walls and through hallways, the moaning echoing behind me. I reached the window and barely managed to get the damn thing open with my shaking hands, tossing my body out and onto the tarmac. I couldn't hear the sound anymore, but it didn't stop me tearing like a bat out of hell to the fence and scrambling over while crying out to my friends. The moment they saw me running, they fled, assuming someone was chasing me. I can't blame them. I would have too. I got over the fence with the fervor and speed of an Olympian and was off down the street before I fell down, panting on the dirt. Dave and Michael never came back to get me. Unsurprisingly, I kept the whole event to myself, only telling Michael and Dave, who only laughed at me. Dude, you came out of there like a fucking shark was chasing you, man. Should have seen your face. Fucking beautiful. Then came Tuesday. Michael sent me the text. Get down here, now. They found something at the school. I arrived to find an ambulance out front of the gates. People were crowding around. Someone was being wheeled out just as I arrived, and a teary-eyed woman threw herself at a uniformed man, cutting through to see who was on the stretcher. It took a little time for the full story to be gathered. He was narcoleptic, the kid. Would fall asleep anytime, any place. Was bullied and treated like shit by the other kids for it. He'd been missing officially since Monday, but hadn't actually been heard from since school ended. It wasn't reported sooner because his parents were on holiday for 2 weeks in Malga. Only got back the Sunday night. Some kids had shut him in one of the lockers on their last day, and the kid must have passed out. No one realized he was there as they grabbed their stuff, joked and laughed, all meters from the sleeping boy. A search party found him when they went to look in the school and decided to check his locker. He was dead when they got to him. A dare. A prank gone horribly wrong. A life lost that summer. A reminder that fear doesn't always come from the shadows. Sometimes, it hides in plain sight. I've always been a light sleeper, but last night was different. Around 2 a.m., I woke up to a faint thud from the living room. My first thought was that I was imagining it, but the sound came again. Louder. Deliberate. I live alone. Heart hammering, I lay frozen, straining to hear. Footsteps. Slow. Careful. Moving toward the kitchen. I didn't dare move. My phone was on the nightstand, just out of reach. I debated calling 911, but I didn't want to make a sound. Then came another noise. A soft scrape along the floor. Like someone testing the boards. My stomach dropped. Someone was in my house. I thought about hiding, but my room has one door and one window. Neither would be enough if they saw me. I stayed still, listening as the footsteps stopped. Silence. Then, the creak of the floor outside my bedroom. Close. Too close. I slowly reached for my phone, barely lifting it. My hand shook so badly I almost dropped it. Flashlight on. I aimed it toward the door. Nothing. Relief was fleeting. I noticed my bedroom door was slightly open. I know I had closed it before bed. Then a shadow moved across the hallway. My breath caught. Whoever it was careful. Methodical. Waiting. Watching. I remembered the spare key I hid in the garden shed. It was risky, but my only chance. I inched to the window, peeking through the blinds. The backyard was dark. Empty. Too dark. Too quiet. I waited. Footsteps in the kitchen again, shuffling, dragging something. My heart raced. I grabbed a baseball bat from under the bed, gripping it like a lifeline. Then it stopped. Silence. I froze. And suddenly, my bedroom door clicked. Someone had pushed it open a little more. I didn't think. I ran. Out the back door, barefoot, into the night. I called 911 from the street. They searched the house, found no one. Nothing. I went back the next day, police in tow. No forced entry, no sign of anyone. But the sliding door lock was slightly misaligned, like it had been forced from the outside, and one of the drawers in the kitchen was open. I've never felt safe sleeping in my own home again. Every creak, every whisper of wind makes me jump. And every time I leave, I check the locks at least 3 times. And still, I wonder, were they just unlucky last night, or are they still out there, waiting?
I inherited my grandmother's house and avoided the attic for days. When I finally went up, I found a small box labeled Anna. Inside, wrapped in yellowed tissue, was a rag doll. Frayed dress, uneven yarn hair, shiny button eyes. Ordinary? Harmless, I thought. That night, I woke to soft thumps from the living room. My heart pounded. The doll had been on the shelf. Now it wasn't there. The next morning, she was on the kitchen table, facing me. I didn't move her. Then came the whispers. faint, pleading, like a child. Anna. Objects started moving. Books toppled. Floorboards groaned under invisible weight. Footsteps paced in the attic at night. One evening, I woke to giggling. Low, hollow. And there she was, in my bedroom doorway, arms outstretched, button eyes glinting. "Stay with me," she whispered, in a tone that was malicious and soft. I fled. I tried to forget. I sold the house. But sometimes, at night, I hear giggles in the corners of my apartment. And sometimes, when the lights are just right, I see a shadowy figure sitting in the corner, watching me, smiling. I don't know how she follows. I don't know why. But I know one thing. She will never let me go. I got a doll for my birthday. She looked just like me. Same brown hair, same blue dress I wore. Mommy said she found her at an old shop and knew I'd love her. I named her Lily. Lily was fun at first. We had tea parties and I told her secrets. But then, weird things happened. I'd leave Lily on the chair, but find her on my bed later. "Maybe you forgot you moved her," Mommy said. But I knew I didn't. One night, I heard a noise, like tiny feet walking. I peeked from under my covers and saw Lily sitting on my desk, but her eyes were looking at me. It made my heart beat really fast. Next day, I put Lily in the closet. I didn't want to play with her anymore. She made me feel strange. But when I came back from school, she was sitting on my bed again. Her smile looked different, bigger. I told Mommy, but she just laughed. "Lily's just a doll," she said. Then, the scariest thing happened. It was night, and the moon was bright. I woke up feeling cold. I looked around and I wasn't in my bed. I was on the shelf where I keep my toys. And in my bed, where I should have been, was Lily. She was under my blanket, her eyes closed like she was sleeping. I tried to scream, but no sound came out. I couldn't move. My arms and legs were stiff as wood. I looked down at my hands. They weren't my hands. They were doll hands. I don't know how long I stayed there. The moon moved across the sky, and the room got darker. Then light peeked in. Morning. When Mommy came to wake me, she didn't see me on the shelf. She went to the bed. "Time to get up, Amy," she said to Lily. Lily moved. She stretched and yawned like she was really me. I wanted to cry, to tell Mommy it was me on the shelf. But I couldn't. I was just a doll. Mommy left the room, and Lily got dressed in my clothes. She looked in the mirror and smiled. But her eyes were scary, not like mine. I sat on the shelf every day, watching Lily. She played with my toys, ate my food, and hugged my Mommy. Nobody knew I was here on the shelf. Years went by. So many years, sitting on the shelf in my room. But it wasn't my room anymore. It was Lily's room now. She grew taller and older, but I stayed the same, a small porcelain doll with a silent voice. I watched Lily become a teenager, then a grown-up. She stopped playing with dolls, stopped noticing me on the shelf. I was just a forgotten toy in a room filled with memories. Then, one sunny day, Mommy decided to have a garage sale. She gathered old things that weren't needed anymore, and that included me. I was placed on a table with other old toys, my dress faded and my hair a bit tangled. People came and went, looking at all the stuff. Then she came, a little girl with bright eyes and a smile that reminded me of me a long time ago. Her name was Emma. Emma saw me and her face lit up. "Can I have this doll, Mommy?" she asked, holding me gently. Her mom nodded, and that's how I left my old home, tucked under Emma's arm, going to a new place. Emma's room was full of colors and laughter. She played with me every day, telling me stories and secrets, just like I used to with Lily. She named me Rosie, and I loved that name. It felt new and happy. Then, something strange happened. One morning, I felt a tingle in my fingers. It scared me, but also made me hopeful. Each day, I felt more and more. My arms, my legs, they started to feel real again. One night, under the moonlight streaming through Emma's window, I felt it. I could move, just a little, but it was movement. My heart, if I still had one, was beating so fast. I closed my eyes, wishing, hoping. When I opened my eyes again, it was morning, but everything was different. I was in Emma's bed, covered in her blanket. I sat up, looking at my hands. They were real hands again. I jumped out of bed and ran to the mirror. But the reflection staring back wasn't mine. It was Emma's face. I touched my face, feeling real skin instead of porcelain. It was like magic, but also scary. I turned around and saw the shelf where I used to sit. There, in my old spot, was a doll. It looked just like Emma, with her cute dress and shiny hair. But it wasn't Emma. It was just a doll, still and silent. My heart felt heavy. I understood then. The same thing that happened to me and Lily had happened to Emma. I was free from being a doll. But Emma, she was trapped, just like I had been. I remembered Lily and realized she must have been a real girl too, turned into a doll. The only way to break the doll's curse was for another little girl to take my place. It made me feel sad and guilty. I didn't want Emma to be stuck like I was. But what could I do? I was in Emma's body now. Now, I go to her school, play with her friends, and live her life. But every night, I look at the Emma doll on the shelf and whisper, "I'm sorry. I wish I could change it, make it all go back to normal, but I don't know how." Whenever people come to my house, they inevitably ask about Lily doll. So I explained that she was given to me by my grandma, who passed away when I was 14. This answer satisfies most people, but others, those who can't seem to get away from Lily doll's two large eyes, ask why she's in such a prominent place, with her own little shelf to the side of my TV. Their tone of voice implies that they think she would be better suited for some neglected corner or box out of sight. I usually just say that my grandma was very important to me, and Lily doll is all I have to remember her by. Technically, that is true, but it's not the only reason I keep Lily doll close by. Over the years, I've discovered it's best to keep her in my line of sight. The first time I saw Lily doll was at my grandma's house. It was October, my favorite time of year. It was Grandma's favorite too. Her house was always decked out with the coolest Halloween decorations. Nothing gory. She wanted kids to be excited to reach her house on Halloween, not traumatized. It was my favorite place to explore. I'd read all the handmade tombstones in the yard, learning that, contrary to popular opinion, Goldilocks had not escaped the 3 bears. And while brick is impervious to lung power, it is less so against a crafty wolf with explosives. It was the perfect level of scary for a kid. Full of familiar names and stories, but just far enough from reality to be more fun than terrifying. Grandma's living room was equally decked out, but the tombstones were replaced with figurines scattered on the shelves and tables. There was a pumpkin man, a vampire asleep in his coffin, even a dancing skeleton. And peeking out of the corner of a shelf I was just tall enough to touch was Lily Doll. "Grandma, what's this one supposed to be?" I asked, pointing a finger up at the doll. "Why, that's not a Halloween decoration," my grandma replied. "That's Lily Doll." "Lily Doll?" I asked. "Oh, yes. I've had Lily Doll for years and years. She's become quite the close friend. Do you like her?" Now, I completely understand why some are creeped out by Lily Doll. She has 2 big eyes, and the makeup painted around them is just a little too dark. Her gray dress and plain brown hair give her more of a depressing aura than a modest one. So I get why some people don't like her. But little 10-year-old me, full of the seasoned spirit, was entranced. Lily Doll might not have been a Halloween decoration per se, but she certainly had the feel of one. "Yes, Grandma, I love Lily Doll," I replied. She smiled and guided me into the kitchen for some cookies. As the years went by, my passion for Halloween began to wane. I think it loses some of its magic for someone when they reach the age where dressing up and going from house to house for candy is no longer deemed appropriate. While I stayed in touch with my grandma, I did not rush to her Halloween house anymore, and I forgot all about Lily Doll. My grandma died in late winter, when the sky was as gray as the cement below and the slush soaked into my boots, making my walks home from school a misery. It wasn't a surprise to anyone when she passed. She'd almost made it to 90. Even Grandma wasn't surprised. My mother eventually admitted to me that shortly before her passing, Grandma had called the house, saying she knew the end was near. Naturally, I tried to say how silly that was, my mother told me. I reminded her of how healthy she was, and that her mother almost made it to 100. But she wouldn't hear it. She was so calm about the whole thing. I can't imagine feeling so serene when I eventually get to that point. I couldn't either, but Grandma had always been an easygoing person. I figured she must have had a different perspective on death than me or my mother, one gained through long years and a life well lived. I still believe this, but I now have a better understanding of how she knew when her time was up. After the funeral, my Uncle Thomas stopped me. My black dress, tights, and dress shoes were no match for the chilled air and wet, mushy walkways, and I was eager to get into the warmth of my family's car. But I stopped and hoped the conversation wouldn't last long. "Hey kiddo, how you doing?" Uncle Thomas asked. "I'm okay." I fidgeted, both from the cold and being called a kid. At 14, the word felt like more of an insult than a friendly pet name. "How are you?" "I'm getting through." His voice wavered as his eyes filled with tears. I silently cursed myself for being so impatient. Grandma Rose was his mother, after all. He must be devastated. Uncle Thomas shook off the worst of his grief, for the moment at least, and cleared his voice. "I wanted to stop you before you left. Grandma Rose left you something in her will." He handed me a small box. "I caught your Aunt Jackie trying to sneak it out of the house. I think she was hoping to sell it on eBay or something. Old dolls can sometimes be pretty valuable." "Thanks, Uncle Thomas." I hugged him and watched as he walked back towards the church. I hurried to my family's car and climbed in the back seat before opening the box he had given me. Inside was a familiar little doll. I ran my fingers over her delicate face. I wondered if she was made of china, but I was never good at telling such things. "Hello, Lily Doll. Do you want to come home with me?" I asked playfully. Lily Doll made no move to answer me. How could she? She was a doll. But I got the feeling that she was indeed pleased to be coming home with me. I sat her in my lap for the drive home and placed her on my desk once we arrived. Except for the times when I would glance over and smile at her while I did my homework, I mostly forgot about Lily Doll once again. I noticed that, despite not seeming particularly sturdy, She had no problem standing on her own, but not knowing much about how old dolls were made, I didn't put much thought into it. A year passed, and I had fully succumbed to the pressures of adolescence. I was desperate for my peers to not only accept me, but to find me cool. I had started dressing better and putting more of an effort into my physical appearance, and some of the more popular students had taken notice. One girl, Madison, started talking to me in class, and even invited me to eat lunch with her and her friends a couple times. I was elated. I thought getting into Madison's circle would grant me some sort of protection from the bullies. The armor of popularity, I called it. Though never out loud. I didn't want to seem weird, especially in front of Madison. One word from her, and I'd be completely cast out from even the least desirable social circles. One day, Madison invited herself over to my house, along with several of her friends. It was a sort of test. Madison had to make sure I lived up to her standards both in and out of school before I could truly be one of the gang. My heart raced as she examined the posters of bands and attractive young actors pinned to my walls. What if one of them had become uncool without my knowing? Would Madison kick me to the curb? I had to repress a sigh when she finally nodded and allowed myself a small smile. I'd passed. "What's this thing?" I turned to see Justin standing by my desk, a single finger held out towards Lily Doll. "It's freaky." "Oh, it was a gift from my grandma, after she died," I stuttered. Madison looked the doll over, lips pressed into a straight line. "Totally freaky. And ugly, too," she said. My heart sank as the others joined in on her jeers. It didn't matter where Lily Doll had come from. She was proof that I wasn't exactly like the rest of them, which disqualified me from further interaction with the group. "Sorry, Angela, but I think we should go," Madison said, shaking her head like a disappointed mother. I was crushed. My almost friends filed out of my room, Justin bumping the desk and causing Lily Doll to fall over. I stayed where I was until I heard the front door open and shut. Then I made my way over to the desk, standing Lily Doll back up. Even though she had cost me the armor of popularity, I found I couldn't be mad at her. I smiled down at her and said, "Don't worry, Lily Doll. We'll make some friends eventually." A week passed, and I got used to eating lunch by myself again. I noticed that I did better in class now that I wasn't constantly watching Madison in case she had a note for me to pass or needed an answer on the test. Friday night, instead of talking for hours on the phone, I made myself some popcorn and curled up on the couch to watch a movie marathon. As I was thinking it was time to head to bed, the phone went off. My mother, making a snack in the kitchen, snatched it up. After a few minutes, she walked into the family room, where I was still curled up on the couch. "Angela?" she said, prying my attention away from the TV. "Yeah?" I said. The look on her face made me sit a little straighter. She was totally pale. "Angela, I'm sorry, but there was an accident. Some kids from your school were driving home from a party and ran a red light. Another car hit them. They're in the hospital right now. One boy, he died before the ambulance arrived." I was quiet for a moment, absorbing what my mother had just told me. "Who was the boy?" I asked. "I'm not sure. I think his name started with a J? Jason? No, Justin. That was his name, Justin." My stomach clenched. My skin ran cold as I tried to process the information. My mother squeezed my shoulder and gave me a small smile. "I'm glad you're safe," she said before walking away. I shut off the TV and went up to my room. I sat on my bed, unable to sleep. I looked over at Lily Doll on my desk. I remembered how Justin had made fun of her, called her a freaky thing before knocking her over, though I didn't think that was on purpose. I hadn't liked Justin, but that didn't mean I wanted him to die. I wondered how the others were doing in the hospital. Eventually, I fell into an uneasy sleep. It was another few months before I started to notice the strange pattern with Lily Doll. I was staying late in art class, talking to my favorite teacher, Mrs. Cinders. I loved to draw, but I also liked how I felt I could talk about anything with Mrs. Cinders. She didn't see our worries as trivial. She took everyone seriously and talked to us like adults. We'd been discussing a book she'd recommended to me when she noticed the time. Oh, I'm sorry, dear, but I have a faculty meeting tonight. I should head over there. I'm not as fast as I used to be. That's okay, Mrs. Cinders. I'll see you tomorrow. I walked with her part way, then turned toward the front doors, waving at her over my shoulder. When I walked into my room, I immediately sensed that something was off. I looked over at my desk as I tossed my backpack to the floor. Lily Doll had fallen on her side. That was odd. I hadn't seen that since Justin had knocked her over. Hey, Mom, were you in my room earlier? I shouted out the doorway. I heard her shuffling around in the office. No, sweetie, I haven't been in your room all day, came the reply. I stared at Lily Doll for a moment before moving to stand her up again. The next day, I took my seat in our class, eager to talk with Mrs. Cinders again. Except she didn't show up. Instead, a substitute came in. He wrote an assignment on the board, then sat and read a book while everyone else got to work. I wonder where Mrs. Cinders is, I said to myself as I scribbled on the paper before me. She never misses class. Didn't you hear? The girl next to me said, startling me. I hadn't realized anyone had heard me. Mrs. Cinders had an aneurysm last night. Her husband found her lying on the kitchen floor. Dead. I was stunned. I couldn't focus on work for the rest of the period, and I walked home in a daze. Mrs. Cinders dead? My heart ached with grief. I'd felt so close to her for so long, and now she was just gone. It was similar to how I felt when I first heard that my grandma had died. I rushed past my mother when I got home, not able to explain the tears trickling down my cheeks. I curled up on my bed and let sobs rack my body. High school was hell for me, but Mrs. Cinders had made it just a little more bearable. I cried because she was gone, and I cried because, once again, I was alone. I'm not sure how long I stayed like that, but I do remember looking up to see Lily Doll staring at me from my desk. I sniffled and thought of how I'd found her on her side yesterday, how she'd tipped over when Justin bumped the desk. I started to wonder, could there be a connection? I didn't tell anyone about my suspicions because, well, they sounded insane. How could there be a connection between my doll and people's deaths? Things fall over, and I was always tossing things on my desk. I probably knocked her over and didn't notice until long after. Despite my rationalization, a part of my mind kept wondering about Lily Doll. Eventually, the hell that was high school ended, and I went off to college. Life actually got better. It was even kind of amazing. I made friends, both with teachers and other students. I was invited to my first party, and then another, and another. I'd never realized life could be so much fun. I didn't become some insane party animal and flunk out of school, but for the first time, I had a healthy balance between work and friends. I loved it. Despite my newfound happiness, I still found myself looking at Lily Doll with suspicion. When I stared into her big, dark eyes, I didn't feel anything malicious, but something deep in my gut kept nagging at me, saying that Lily Doll wasn't normal. She fell over once my freshman year. A few hours later, I got a call from home. Uncle Thomas had collapsed with a heart attack. He didn't survive the night. Trying to bury the thoughts that kept nagging at my brain, I stood Lily Doll back up again and tried to focus on other things. With the happiness of college, I felt a resurgence in my love for Halloween. I bought decorations for my apartment and covered every surface with skeletons and witches and other creatures of the night. A friend invited me to a costume party, and I happily accepted the invitation. Everything about it was great. The booze, the food, the costumes. One guy, Isaac, really liked my evil Willow costume. We spent the night talking about Buffy and other stuff we both enjoyed. Time flew past, and I found myself wanting to kiss him. I didn't, though. I wasn't confident enough to make the first move, but I did make sure to get his number before I left. I returned to my apartment, barely feeling the floor beneath me. My smile stretched across my face, threatening to fall off. It had been a perfect night. As I unlocked the front door, I heard a thud and crack from the other side. Immediately on edge, I pushed the door open slowly, only to find that Lily Doll had fallen on the floor, I'd been keeping her on a high shelf, and it looked like the fall onto the wood floor had been enough to shatter her delicate face. I walked over and turned her onto her back, one eye looking up at me. I traced a finger over the break, flinching back when I cut my finger. "Idiot!" I muttered as a drop of blood fell into Lily Doll's head. I looked into her eye and seemed to fall into the blackness. Suddenly, I was staring at myself from behind. My body was still crouched over Lily Doll, perfectly still. I realized I was peeking through the bathroom door, which was open just a crack. My hand clenched around something. The handle of a knife. A wave of aggression and malice rolled through me as I began to open the door. I blinked and was staring down at Lily Doll again. I felt dazed for a moment, trying to figure out what had just happened. But a slight creak behind me snapped me to attention. I whirled around to see a man with a knife. He was dressed in black from head to toe, but I could see the threatening glint in his eyes. Terror threatened to freeze me to the spot, but I knew I had to act. I realized that his were the eyes I'd been looking through a moment before, and I remember the dark hunger I'd felt stirring inside him. If I didn't do something, he was going to kill me. The man took a few cautious steps towards me, then lunged as I spun out of the way, the blade missing me by inches. I ended up near the kitchen counter. Seeing the block of knives, I wrapped my fingers around the handle of one, pulling it out and turning towards my attacker at the same time. I wasn't a moment too soon. The man had recovered from his miss quickly and was already charging toward me for another attack. Unfortunately for him, he was going too fast to stop himself from being impaled on the knife I'd grabbed. He gasped in surprise, in pain, but I didn't wait to see if he'd recover. I pulled out the knife and stabbed him again, this time high in the chest. He stumbled backward, trying to staunch the flow of blood from his wounds. Adrenaline pumping through me, I grabbed the knife he had dropped and pulled out my phone, calling the police. They arrived to find a dying man and a shaken girl, hands bloody and wrapped around 2 knives. An ambulance took the man away as the police questioned me and assessed the scene. It was a pretty clear-cut case of self-defense. The officer said I didn't have anything to worry about. He asked if there was someone I wanted to call, so I didn't have to spend the night alone. I assured him I would be fine. He gave me a dubious look, but didn't push it. Once I was alone, I turned back to Lily Doll. I looked in her head, but the drop of blood from earlier was gone. I felt a sort of hum flowing between us as I touched her. I realized it had always been there, just too faint for me to really take notice. I scooped up Lily Doll and the fragments of her face. I spent the night gluing her back together. After an hour or so, I leaned back to assess my work. Her face was a series of cracks, glue seeping between the pieces. I wasn't very good at fixing things, but for some reason, I thought I'd be able to fix Lily Doll. Grabbing a new knife from my kitchen, the police took the other 2 as evidence. I sliced open a finger, tracing over the cracks with my blood. I waited for a moment after I finished. Nothing happened. Lily Doll looked even worse now. I should have waited to take her to a professional. Saddened, I wrapped up my finger and curled up under the covers, too drained from the night's events to stay awake any longer. In the morning, I woke to find Lily Doll looking as good as new. All the blood, glue, and cracks had disappeared from her face. She looked just like she had the first day I saw her. I ran my finger over her delicate features. I could still feel the humming, and it got stronger when I stared into her eyes. After that, I stopped trying to deny Lily Doll's ability to predict death. I still didn't tell anybody, but I was content to keep the secret, as my grandma must have before me. Over the years, I continued to find Lily Doll fallen on her side, but she never shattered again. I think my blood made her too strong for that. I know what it means when I find her on the floor or on her side, but I don't have to wait for a call anymore to confirm. Instead, I just stare into Lily Doll's eyes. Through her, I can see who's going to die. Sometimes, I can even determine how and when. It is a power I act on sparingly. I cannot save everyone. Death is natural for us humans. Mrs. Cinders, my grandma, Uncle Thomas, it was time for them to move on. But sometimes I decide to fight it, like when I pulled Isaac out of the way of that drunk driver just before their car jumped the curb, slamming into the light post we'd been kissing under. Sometimes I think about telling Isaac how I knew the car was coming, but it feels wrong. Lily Doll chose me all those years ago, and she saved my life. It's the least I can do to keep her secret. So that's why I keep her in a place of honor in my home, so I can know when danger is coming, so I can protect my family. Isaac sometimes teases me about Lily Doll, but his voice is always full of affection. I can tell that he secretly likes Lily Doll. She likes him too. Lately, my youngest child, Noah, has taken an interest in Lily Doll. I often find him staring up at her. Sometimes they even seem to talk when no one else is in the room. It warms my heart to see them getting on so well. I was so hoping to keep Lily Doll in the family, and it looks like she feels the same. These stories are echoes from our darkest uploads, brought back together to remind us just how chilling reality can feel when filtered through the eyes of strangers. Some were shared long ago, others more recent, but each carries the same unease, the same lingering fear that creeps into the corners of your mind. As this compilation ends, remember the stories don't truly finish. They live on in your thoughts, in the shadows of your home, in the quiet moments when the lights are off. Revisit them if you dare, and maybe even explore their threads yourself. But always, leave the light on.